Vishnu, more details are in fact emerging about this drone strike and, the precise nature of it. The fact that Zawahiri was on his balcony and that is when this drone strike took place and nobody else was injured. In fact, the building, the house that he was staying in remained intact.
Well, the US has used a drone with a Hellfire missile or Hellfire missiles. They were obviously tracking the movements of Ayman al-Zawahiri, which by itself was the biggest part, the biggest achievement, because this is one of the most shadowy figures of the Al-Qaeda, the emir of the Al-Qaeda. And once they got a proper visual ID on him, they took him out with a Hellfire missile. I think we need to place this in context. This is perhaps the biggest elimination of a global terrorist after the elimination of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Ayman al-Zawahiri, the emir of the Al-Qaeda, the top leader of the Al-Qaeda, after the demise, after the death by elimination of Osama bin Laden, was the international spearhead, the fountainhead of the Al-Qaeda. And the fact that he was taken out in this manner sort of is a huge step against the Al-Qaeda. Whether there is any tertiary leadership which is still available of the Al-Qaeda, we don't know. But the US president making it clear that Afghan territory will not be used for further strikes by the Al-Qaeda as a launchpad against American interests. But let's talk a little bit about Ayman al-Zawahiri himself. He was an Egyptian. He had his own terrorist group over there, the Egyptian Jihad, which at a certain stage integrated with the Al-Qaeda. He was involved in attacks which took place, truck bombing explosions in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and Nairobi in Kenya. There was the bombing of the US destroyer USS Cole as well. It was at that stage that he fled to Afghanistan along with Osama bin Laden separately. And then between Pakistan and Afghanistan, they had their base, their presence, and then they thought up 2611 and they carried it out. Thousands of people lost their lives. Many more lost their lives in the years afterwards, after the American invasion of Afghanistan. Finally, Osama bin Laden was taken out in Pakistan, and now the Americans have got al-Zawahiri. So it's a huge statement, and I think it doesn't really matter very much what the Taliban government has to say in Kabul. The fact of the matter is it only reflects the fact that they have a terrorist base as their underpinning. So they're condemning the elimination of Ayman al-Zawahiri needs to be looked in that context. I think the really big story over here is that this global terrorist has been taken out. Now, even when it comes to Pakistan, the fact is that he did have a role in the Lal Masjid episode over there, where in 2007, where he guided militants in Pakistan to take a position against the government of Pakistan. There are reports which suggest that he had a role in the assassination of Benazir Bhutto as well. There were at least two very major attempts to eliminate him in Pakistani soil earlier on, but somehow or the other he managed to come and managed to survive. But on this occasion, obviously through very high-level intelligence and visual observation, American forces using a drone have taken him out.
Right, Vishnu. As you said, Taliban's reaction does not hold much ground because, of course, they were violating international principles as well as he was living in Kabul, Afghanistan.
It seems. That's right.
Right. And Vishnu, tell us also about the significance of this for the region and also in the Taliban, who is expected to be the next, be the successor of al-Zawahiri. Is there any detail on what could happen next?
I don't have any detail on who the next successor of al-Zawahiri would be, and I think one needs to see over a period of time whether the Al-Qaeda as a terrorist outfit has been overshadowed by other terrorist outfits. That's not really the point over here. I think the fact that there is already the emergence of ISIS means that Al-Qaeda as a force, some would suggest, is not what it was in the recent past. However, the entire terrorist network operating in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and something which affects India's interests, is essentially linked up at various levels. They are supported by Pakistan at so many levels, whether it's at the level of Pakistani intelligence, sometimes at the level of the Pakistani army itself. So there are various groups which operate in Jammu and Kashmir. The fact is that Afghan weaponry or American weaponry, which was found in Afghanistan, later transferred to terrorists, has been found in Jammu and Kashmir as well over the last 1 year. So this remains a constant, threat for us. But the fact that this attack has actually taken place is very, very significant, because remember the thousands of lives who've been lost. And while Biden may have spoken about American lives, international lives which were lost, whether in Kenya or in Yemen or in Tanzania or indeed in Pakistan, as a result of the role of the Al-Qaeda.